The reason why it's constrained is because there's lots of offshore and onshore wind in northern Scotland.
Okay.
And so on windy days, particularly because the demand is typically south of northern Scotland, the power is trying to flow from northern Scotland down across this constraint boundary. And yeah, as I said, if it's a windy day, then there's simply not enough capacity to transmit all that power.
You can really see that when we have windy days, so we picked a couple of days from January here, the boundary is flowing at its maximum capacity as the electricity tries to get exported down to the demand regions south of it.
Yeah, exactly. So this boundary would typically see utilizations so flow as a percentage of its maximum capacity of around 60%.
Okay.
But on really windy days, that goes right up to 100%.
Okay, so then that begs the question of what that flexible generating asset, what Peterhead is doing on those windy days.
Yes, exactly. So we can delve into that here. So on a really windy day, in this article we've looked at the 26th of January 2022.
Okay, why that particular day?
That day, wind output from Scotland was 4.4 gigawatts, which is in the top 1% of days this year. So very, very, very windy compared to the rest of days this year. And we can clearly see that Peterhead was significantly bid down in the balancing mechanism compared to the exports that it had scheduled via its physical notifications.
Okay, cool. So this dotted line here is what the planned export was. That's what it put a final physical notification into National Grid Control Room to say it was going to do, which was generating at 1.2 gigawatts for a lot of the day. And then via the balancing mechanism, so this is the real-time kind of fixing and adjusting that National Grid do after gate closure, that was turned right down to 200 megawatts for half the day and then to 0 for the rest of the day.
Yep, that's exactly what's going on. And the reason is because there was so much wind being produced on that day that essentially exceeded the capacity of the SSE SP boundary, and so Peterhead had to be turned down to manage that constraint.